A very warm welcome. You're watching News 18 Global. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Let's begin the segment with our top focus on the U.S. Republican presidential race. The United States is bracing up for the first Republican presidential debate. It's all set to happen in Milwaukee at the end of this month. While some have made it to the final list, many are still scrambling. Interestingly, one of them is Donald Trump. Before we analyze Trump's presidential prospects, let me also brief you about who's made it to the list. These candidates are Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and South Carolina Senator as well. It should be noted that these candidates have met all the three criteria. So what are those three criteria? That the contender should have the unique donor threshold, polled well enough in qualifying surveys, and signed the pledge to support the party's eventual nominee. Here's who've partially qualified because they have still not signed the pledge. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, and former U.S. President Donald Trump, who happens to be the topic of today's discussion. Why is Trump missing from the list of those qualified Republican contenders who will be making it to the debate? After all, it's just a signature away. Now, Trump long ago satisfied the polling and donor requirements, but reports indicate that Trump is considering boycotting and even holding a competing alternate event. Campaign advisors have said that the former president has not made a final decision about attending the debate, but based on his recent statements, he's unlikely to appear and share the dais with other candidates. Moreover, will Trump be able to navigate his legal woes to make it to the final run? This despite the three criminal indictments. And that brings me to the big question we are posing today, which is Donald Trump's presidential hope in hot water? On that note, let me quickly bring in my guest, and I'm joined in by Corinne Clark, who's a conservative strategist. Many thanks to you, Corinne, for joining in. What's the likely reason for Trump missing from the list of final contenders to begin with?
Yeah, Trump has not said whether or not he has not made a final decision of whether or not he will attend the debate. But I think the truth is he's one of the only candidates who could afford to miss this debate. He's polling at least 20 points ahead of any other Republican candidate. And I think if he misses this debate, a lot of people will just not watch the debate at all. So I think he has some freedom here where other candidates really need this publicity.
All right, Corinne, if Trump is unlikely to appear with the other candidates, is this not his attempt to also not allow his top GOP rivals to attack him for his legal troubles, a possibility that could aid the other contenders to eat into his comfortable lead in the polls?
I think either way, whether Donald Trump attends the debate or not, we know that a lot of the topic of conversation will be about Donald Trump. That will be a victory for him no matter what, because these charges are absolutely unpopular. The weaponization of the Department of Justice really demands that every candidate on the stage denounces these charges, which only benefits Trump. So whether he's there or not is a little bit irrelevant at this point. I think it'll benefit him either way.
No, but then reports have clearly indicated that his campaign advisors have hinted that Donald Trump is now planning an alternate event. What is the idea behind staging an event? Do you think it will work with the masses or his support base, which would perhaps have also seen him debating on stage had he attended the first Republican presidential debate? Do you not think that that would prove to be extremely crucial in this race?
I think if he does host an alternative event, the result of that will be that more people watch Donald Trump's event than watch the Republican debate. And I think that just cements his role as a leader of our party. I'm not sure if he will end up doing that. Maybe he won't, but I'm confident that if he does, it will prove a big point to the rest of the contenders that this is Trump's game to lose, and he is not planning on losing it.
All right. And then, let's also talk about Republicans who do want to move on from Trump. aim to, that they're also banking on that accumulation of baggage and distractions, which will, of course, is bound to drive the base to look for a more Trump-friendly alternative. Till earlier this year, Ron DeSantis was being looked at as that friendly alternative. You also have Ramaswamy, who's, emerging in this race. Then you have an option of Mike Pence. I know he's not in the list of the final contenders as yet, but he's always an option. How do you see that friendly alternative to Donald Trump?
I think that the voters have made themselves clear so far that there is no alternative to Donald Trump. Trump supporters are with Trump. I know that's how it is for me. I am a Trump only Republican at this point. And we'll see that as Ron DeSantis has increased his visibility in the media, his popularity has only gone down. I think his popularity was so tied to Trump's image that when he came out against Trump, he took an immediate hit and he has not been able to recover from that. I think we'll see candidates like Vivek actually gain a lot more ground than Ron DeSantis will. He's stayed pretty steady and other candidates continue to climb. Mike Pence qualified for the debate, and I think that's about the height of his campaign.
All right, Corinne, before I let you go, does it matter legally or not? Former President Donald Trump believed the lies he told about the 2020 election. Can ignorance be a defense for his own support base? I'm not even going to get into the legal aspects of it, but how will it work? Do you think that those legal woes will sort of cloud his presidential race prospects?
Absolutely not. I think that everybody has been clear about their continued support of Trump through these legal woes. And what's crazy is that we continue to insist that election fraud in 2020 was a lie. It absolutely wasn't. There's actually a new case this week of voter fraud in Michigan in 2020 being prosecuted, finally. So we'll see how that plays out in the court. But it actually does matter a lot to the case whether or not they can convince a jury that Trump didn't believe that he won in 2020, because the entire idea of conspiracy, the charges that he is actually facing, it requires that he knew that he didn't win. I think everybody who has criticized Trump in the last 3 years is pretty convinced that Trump did think he won the 2020 election. And you know what? A bunch of Americans believe that too. I certainly do. He did win in 2020. There's a massive fraud. They won't say widespread. It doesn't have to be widespread. It's very targeted fraud that stole the election from Republicans in 2020. And I do hope that they have to prove that that wasn't real, because they aren't going to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I do agree with you that we'll have to wait and watch how this plays out legally for sure. On that note, I'll have to thank you. Many thanks to you, Corinne Clark, for joining in with your precious perspective.